is on the foundations and the timber frame. Before picking up any tools, the first thing I did was use a free tool called Floor Planner, which I'll put a link to below. This tool allowed me to see the sort of space I was working with and how I could fit everything in. And this is sort of what I ended up with. So here's the space I'm working with. I only took a picture and it's in portrait, unfortunately, but you get the idea. But 5 van loads to tip later, we finally had a clear space to work with. We're pretty happy to find a concrete slab underneath the old summer house. This was a 3 by 3 metre slab, and we could also see how thick it was thanks to the fact that the neighbour out the back of my garden was also doing a lot of work and had temporarily removed the fence. As my garden room is bigger than the concrete slab, we needed to add some concrete blocks to support the front of the structure. We dug 3 holes at the front, deep enough to add a few inches of type 1 aggregate followed by 2 concrete blocks. It's important to have an air gap underneath the timbers, so we've raised everything up by 30mm. To do this, we've used paving slabs on the concrete. Our concrete also wasn't level, so this gave us an ideal opportunity to get everything perfectly flat. We ended up cutting some paving slabs in half to reduce the gaps between supports. Things were starting to go well and we got a bit excited and missed some footage here, but here's all the supports down. Now we're moving on to putting in the timber frame floor. The first thing we had to do was move all of the wood that had been delivered at the front of the house round to the back, and as I lived in a terraced house, that meant going through all of the side gates. Lesson learnt, living in a terraced house isn't ideal for getting materials delivered. Now comes the slightly complicated bit. We used a tool called SketchUp to map out our plans. We then found some span tables online to help calculate the distance each timber could run unsupported. I'll leave a link below to the table we used. We then needed to work out the distance between each joist. In our case we used 2 foot. This was so that a piece of OSB would fit on without any cutting required. Swapping between feet and metre measurements is a bit of a pain and something I'd probably do differently next time. We bolted the frame down to the paving slabs using heavy-duty angle brackets. We also used a piece of damp-proof membrane to stop any water from rising up into the frame. To insulate the floor, we've used 75mm PIR insulation. This is more expensive than something like rock wool, but it's far better at insulating. So as I want to use the garden office in the winter, I've gone all out on the insulation. So we've got the insulation in, and we've put some expanding foam around the edge to seal the air in. Next we're going to put the OSB on. We're using half threaded screws. You can see the top of the thread at the screw.
and that's going to help us sink that down into the OSB and stop it from moving.
If you like this episode, then please do subscribe, and thank you for watching.